Failure lingers. It sits in the back of your mind, shaping how you see yourself, how you move through the world, and how you define what is possible. It is that silent weight that holds you back from trying, from risking, from stepping into the unknown. We fear it, we avoid it, and we do everything in our power to escape it because we have been taught that failure is a verdict, a judgment, a sign that we are not good enough. But what if that is the biggest lie we have ever believed? What if failure isn't the opposite of success, but part of it? What if the only true failure is never trying at all? Look at the people who changed the world, the greatest minds, the most resilient leaders, the pioneers of human progress. Every single one of them failed. Not once, not twice, but relentlessly. Thomas Edison failed over 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. J.K. Rowling faced rejection after rejection before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company before returning to redefine an industry, and yet they persisted. They didn't let failure define them. They let failure refine them. If failure truly meant the end, none of their stories would have continued. But they did. And the real question is not whether you will fail, because you will. The real question is, what will you do when it happens? Failure feels terrifying because we are wired to avoid it. The human brain is designed to seek safety, to minimize risk, and to prioritize survival. In our evolutionary past, failure often meant real danger. A mistake in judgment could mean injury, starvation, or death. And even though the world has changed, our biology hasn't. When we fail, our nervous system reacts as if we are under attack. Our heart rate rises, cortisol floods the bloodstream, and the brain switches into survival mode. That's why failure feels so deeply personal, so overwhelming. It is because, on a biological level, it feels like a threat to our very existence. But here's the thing: failure is not a threat. It is a teacher. It is a guide. It is the process of success unfolding in real time. A scientist in a lab does not see a failed experiment as proof they should quit. They see it as data, as feedback, as another step closer to the answer. What if we treated life the same way? What if, instead of fearing failure, we expected it? What if we saw it as a necessary part of learning, as something to be studied, understood, and used? What if every setback was not a sign to stop but an opportunity to adjust? That shift in thinking changes everything, because failure is not the end. It is information. It is progress in disguise. Psychologists have studied failure extensively, and the research is clear. The way we interpret failure determines whether we grow from it or are destroyed by it. Carol Dweck, a leading psychologist at Stanford, introduced the idea of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset sees failure as proof of inadequacy. I failed, therefore I am not smart enough, not talented enough, not good enough. But a growth mindset sees failure differently. I failed, therefore I am learning. I am adapting. I am improving. Studies show that people with a growth mindset not only recover from failure faster, but ultimately achieve far more than those who let failure define them. And the best part? Mindset is not fixed. It can be trained. Reframing failure starts with a simple but profound shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of thinking, "I failed, so I should stop," think, "I failed, so I must adjust." Failure does not mean you are on the wrong path. It means you are on the path. And avoiding failure is far more dangerous than facing it, because the person who never fails is the person who never tries, the person who plays it safe, who never takes risks, who never steps outside their comfort zone. What they don't realize is that they are failing in a much deeper way. They are failing by default. Think about the silent cost of avoiding failure. Every dream that was never pursued because someone was afraid. Every idea that was left unspoken because someone feared rejection. Every opportunity that was missed because someone hesitated for too long. The greatest losses in life are not the failures we experience. They are the things we never even attempt. History is filled with stories of people who embraced failure and turned it into their greatest advantage. Edison once said, "I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Michael Jordan once said, "I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Walt Disney was fired from his first job for lacking creativity. His first company went bankrupt. Today, his name is synonymous with imagination itself. These are not exceptions, these are patterns, because greatness is not the absence of failure, it is the mastery of it. So, how do we train our minds to handle failure? First, we must separate failure from identity. Failing at something does not mean you are a failure. It is simply an event, an outcome, a moment in time. It is not who you are. Second, we must treat failure as a system for improvement. When something doesn't work, study it. Ask, what went wrong? What was in my control? What would I do differently next time? Approach failure scientifically, not emotionally. Third, we must train ourselves to be comfortable with discomfort. Failure feels uncomfortable, but so does growth. If you want to master failure, practice putting yourself in situations where you might fail. Try things you're bad at. Take risks that stretch your abilities. Push yourself beyond what is safe. The more you expose yourself to failure, the less power it has over you. Maybe failure is not something to be feared. Maybe failure is not an obstacle. Maybe failure is an invitation to grow, to refine, to adapt. What if failure is not a signal to stop, but a signal to start again? The only way to truly fail is to stop trying. So, the next time you fail, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this failure make me better? What would happen if I embraced failure instead of running from it? The answer to these questions will shape your future because, in the end, failure is not the end. Failure is just the beginning. If this conversation resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, failure is not a dead end. It is the first step forward.